It's the afternoon of Saturday the 10th of April. Roger de Vlaminck arrives at the Brooklyn team's hotel in La Malais, north of Paris. His teammates and the team personnel are already there to meet him. Roger de Vlaminck is Brooklyn's star, and he's one of the favourites in the classic Paris Roubaix cycle race. Eddy Merckx arrives at the Molteni team's hotel in Seville. The mechanics meet him and are ready to go to work on his bicycles. Eddy Merckx is the biggest name in professional cycling, and he has dominated the sport in an exceptional manner for several years. He is Roger de Vlaminck's rival in Paris Roubaix. The legs are shaved for a massage, one of the most important steps in preparing each individual rider. The muscles must be softened in readiness for the torture ahead. De Vlaminck, like his rivals, is already in fine condition, benefiting from some of the hard spring races in Italy and Belgium.
Stamattina quanti chilometri hai fatto? Stamattina quanti chilometri hai fatto?
55 dietro molto.
Dietro molto?
Sì. Ma non forte però,
Ah no, non vale più andare forte. Che sei venuto via la cosa.
Una. Così? Lo so, no?
Eddy Merckx personally supervises the preparation of his machines.
C'est vrai qu'ils disent toujours que c'est le mec qui travaille au vélo, mais là ils verront que c'est pas quelqu'un d'autre aussi. Dicono che sempre il mec che lavora la bicicletta, adesso vede chi lavora.
He has the reputation of being a super perfectionist, a maniac about mechanical details. Something always needs to be adjusted, especially the height of the saddle.
Giacomo, bisogna misurare se non è più basso quella sinistra. Sì.
Ho toccato uno prima perché ero più basso, ma forse questo qui.
No, sì, allora è quello. L'ho messo già a posto.
Vuoto,
Sì, no, allora va bene. No, pensavo che l'aveva detto da Giuliano. Sì.
No, me l'ha detto lui.
Sì, d'accordo.
Pressione, tu.
Adesso vediamo cosa fai. Se hai riposato o no questa notte. Tu sei stato a fare il furbo,
Possibile ma non sicuro.
Non sicuro.
The Brooklyn team's doctor, Dr. Modesti, gives de Vlaminck a checkup.
120.
Blood pressure 120. Pulse 40.
40.
Everything is in order. Such a low pulse rate isn't abnormal for a racing cyclist in top condition.
un po'. Uguale a lui. Un pochettino di più te, un po' meno De Witt e lui uguale a De Witt.
Che io?
Sì.
Come mai?
È sempre così,
Sì?
Tipo 2 o 3 giorni che poi non corri, il fegato subito rientra un po' nel volume normale. Poi per un corridore che corre continuamente.
In Chantilly, the Flandria people are very optimistic. They're counting on the Belgian duo of Freddie Martens and Marc de Meyer. Freddie Martens, on the right, is 24 years old, the new superstar of Belgian cycle racing, and so far he's the predominant rider this season. A technical conference is going on at Sanson's Hotel. They're pinning their hopes on the young Italian Francesco Moser, whom many consider the only non-Belgian with a chance.
Il paveno. Però io devo dire, in relazione a quello che abbiamo fatto nelle nostre precedenti edizioni, che abbiamo il corridore, abbiamo la squadra che vuole essere in condizione di affrontare i belgi. L'equipe oggi mi aveva detto che noi diamo Moser in pasto ai belgi, proprio con questo titolo, no? Perché Moser lo considerano anche i francesi il corridore unico per battere i belgi. Una corsa difficile perché oltre ai belgi sono molti leader, molte squadre difficili. Io in ordine di iscrizione devo subito elencare...
In Italy, Francesco Moser is hailed as the new great hope. At last, a new campionissimo who might live up to the glorious past, reminiscent of the great Fausto Coppi. Roger de Vlaminck gets ready. Psychology plays a big part, a question of mind over matter, and Paris Roubaix is a special challenge for him. Like Merckx, de Vlaminck has won the race 3 times. It's his ambition to set the record of 4 wins in the finest and most difficult classic event in professional racing. He knows that his arch-rival Merckx might be the one to do it tomorrow. 4 victories. What gives Paris Roubaix its reputation as the hardest and most fascinating of all classic one-day races is the drama which always accompanies the last part of the course, over the infamous l'Enfer du Nord, the Hell of the North. This hell consists of some primitive, narrow country roads with centuries-old cobblestones, les pavés du Nord, roads no longer used for ordinary civilized traffic, but only for the driving of cattle and for a bicycle race, a truly legendary course. Year after year, this hell is the setting for a veritable Dante's Inferno with incredible tortures and even martyrdom. Sometimes the roadside is transformed into a quagmire and the cobblestones into a skating rink. And this hell has become the home ground of the Flemish supermen, an exclusive affair reserved only for the strongest. Sunday, the 11th of April. It's 7:30 in the morning. From here at the square in Chantilly, the 74th Paris Roubaix will start in a couple of hours. The race was run for the first time in 1896 and has since been run every year except during the war years. And every year adds to the legend of the Hell of the North. Paris-Roubaix is 166 miles long, but the first 100 miles are ridden on ordinary asphalt roads. It's at Novilly that the course's strategic zone commences, the terrible Pavé du Nord. At the hotels this morning, the teams are getting ready to meet up at the starting place in Chantilly. Each one of the bicycles has been taken apart. Each bicycle has 10 or 12 gears, but the individual riders have each chosen the number of teeth on their sprockets. The machines of Moser and his best support rider, Ole Ritter, are equipped with specially strong patented tyres in the hope of avoiding too many punctures on the almost impossible cobbled roads. The competitors consume a solid breakfast. Brooklyn is a good team. Roger de Vlaming can expect loyal and effective support from riders such as De Witt, De Monk, Van der Slagmolen, Borgognoni, Gualazzini, Osler. They are all riding for de Vlaming's chance. A rare steak is a good breakfast for what lies ahead. It looks like it's going to be a Paris Roubaix beneath clear, sunny spring skies. Some of the teams are using the ride to Chantilly as a warm-up in the morning chilly air. Eddie Merckx and his team will also ride part of the way in, but Merckx isn't ready to ride at all until his bicycle is ready.
Stop. Oh, zo. Liggen,
Schiet al mijn kwijt.
Liggen, nog hier. Liggen, stop.
Het handrem. Oh.
All 15 teams are now assembling in the square in Chantilly. Each one of the 154 participants must sign on for the start. It's a presentation ritual, one which also gives the public a chance to see their heroes.
belge et de l'équipe Peugeot et Michelin. Ici, avant devant lui, nous nous avons le champion de Belgique Willy Terlink et Jean-Luc Vandenbroek. Jean-Luc Vandenbroek, dossard 104, deuxième de Milan-San Remo. Nous l'avons vu également longtemps, seconde Paris-Nice.
The French have long since given up all illusions. It's many years since the French riders have been able to hold their own in this great French race. The last French victory was 20 years ago. But that isn't stopping anybody from cheering the national heroes. Tour de France winner Bernard Thévenet signs in.
Bernard Thévenet donc nous rejoint ici pour participer à ce 74e Paris Roubaix. Vous le savez, des ennuis de santé l'ont éloigné du succès dans Paris-Nice. Eh bien, peut-être Bernard Thévenet...
And veteran Raymond Poulidor, 40 years old, but still among the best.
Raymond Poulidor, vainqueur de la Flèche Wallonne de Milan-San Remo, 20 fois champion du monde des grimpeurs, 2 fois.
The Italian champion Francesco Moser. Is he the man to beat the Belgians?
C'est un pronostic qui est loin d'être hasardeux que nous sommes en train de faire, mais la forme affichée par le coureur dans Tirrenia Adriatico et en particulier dans le Tour des Flandres, eh bien laisse parler que la condition physique.
C'est chouette, hein.
It's 20 minutes past 9. The 74th Paris Roubaix is slowly getting underway. Ahead of them is 166 miles, and the riders are expected in Roubaix in a little more than 7 hours. But how many will arrive?
La merde.
And at the Municipal Stadium in Roubaix, preparations are already being made to receive the race, still over 7 hours away. BNP stands for Banque Nationale de Paris, the principal sponsor of this year's race, whose organisers, as with most of the best-known cycle races in France, are the newspapers L'Équipe and Le Parisien Libéré. The field is neutralised through the streets of Chantilly until it reaches the official starting line, and then it's a free-for-all outside the town. It's beautiful weather, but cold at this hour of the day, and the riders are wearing special arm warmers and leggings in order to keep warm. This is where the race is to be let loose, with the Chateau of Chantilly providing the backdrop. But something's holding up the start. Something unforeseen and probably highly irregular. Something's blocking the road and delaying departure. An obstacle which is not included in the race programme. It's a demonstration. They're demonstrating against one of the sponsors of the race, the newspaper Le Parisien Libéré, and they're protesting against the redundancies of the operators on liner type as a result of automation. It's a long-standing labour conflict, and the organisers of the race are not entirely unprepared. But the delay can also be used for adjusting one's saddle. It's such a quiet moment that Brooklyn's service car even allows Merckx to borrow a spanner.
Ma quanta gente c'è lì a far sciopero?
Vous n'êtes pas arrivé, les gars.
No? Dove? Sì? Oh. Sì, ma là se c'è la fuga per vedere chi li ferma. Sicuro.
A professional bike rider is, of course, a moving advertisement, so why not a little space for the workers? The riders are let through in single file. The chain gang run the gauntlet of epithets about the capitalists who've organised their race. A political lecture for the road. But if the race is going to be ridden anyway, and it is, then even the demonstrators have their favourites to cheer, such as the idolised Bernard Thévenet.
C'est pas lui qui travaille, c'est nous. Y'a pas de ligne, là?
Monsieur Albert Roubaix me prie de vous communiquer qu'il vient d'arrêter la course en parcours de la gare de Bourgogne. Comment dites-vous? Voulez-vous répéter doucement?
The time is 10:30. The race eventually started, but with more than an hour's delay, and within a few miles, 3 men have broken away and have gained a slight advantage. Three French riders who in any case don't have a chance, which is perhaps why they're trying to distinguish themselves at this early stage when the favourites are still idling and nobody's interested in increasing the pace. A fall due more to the size of the field than the pace. Nothing serious, but considerable chaos, which rouses the mechanics on the back seats.
Ah, eccoli là, va. Non la voglio. No, qua adesso, guarda.
The damage is quickly repaired, and at this slow pace it's no problem for the casualties to reach the field again. Here's Bernard Thévenet once more, still France's greatest hero after his triumph in the 1975 Tour de France. He doesn't have much of a chance in Paris Roubaix because he's not good enough on Les Pavés. Each team has its own service car. The rider having mechanical difficulties, or who for some reason wants to contact his team director, calls the car by raising his arm. The car is immediately summoned by radio. The 15 service cars are placed in a definite order, for which they've drawn lots. Of course, it's an advantage to be as far forward as possible, because you reach your riders more quickly.
L'avance des trois hommes de tête est toujours de 20 secondes, 22 fois 10 secondes. Je rappelle pour ceux de nos confrères qui n'étaient pas à l'écoute que le départ réel a été donné à la sortie de Solis.
The time is 5 minutes to 11. The three breakaways have increased their lead. The rest of the field is still intact, and nobody seems much inclined to start a pursuit of the no-hopers. The many motorcycles swarming around the field are press photographers, film photographers, radio journalists, and internal communications people. Beside the official cars is a long cortege of press cars who determine their own position, either ahead or behind. Roubaix, 11 o'clock. The Eurovision production chiefs, for the feature covering the last hour of the race, are worried about the delay.
Les difficultés pour les 150 coureurs de Paris-Roubaix ont commencé bien avant l'enfer du Nord et ses célèbres pavés. Au moment où l'épreuve cycliste devait prendre son départ réel, à Vineuil-Saint-Firmin dans l'Oise,
There's excellent teamwork in the breakaway trio. They're all sharing the pacemaking so that their riding really amounts to something. They've built up an advantage of nearly 9 minutes, which still isn't particularly disturbing for the main favourites of the race, and the field's pace is still moderate. As a matter of form, it's Molteni and Flandria, which is to say the supporting riders for Merckx and Martens respectively, who've gone into the front to make sure that the pace, in spite of everything, doesn't get too slow. Merckx himself and Martens, they've gone ahead on a quick reconnaissance of the situation. Right in the middle of the field, wearing the rainbow jersey, is world champion Henny Kuiper of Holland. And sheltering behind his support rider Gualazzini, Roger de Vlaming, waiting. The field rides through Compiègne. A Brooklyn rider raised his arm, and Brooklyn has drawn first position in the line of service cars, so they're on the scene without having to pass the others. Changing a wheel can take a maximum of 10 seconds. The three up ahead now have a good 5 minutes lead, just before Saint-Quentin. All three still seem very fresh, and they take turn in the lead with a smooth, harmonious rhythm. The smaller man with glasses, Mariano Martinez, is better known as a good mountain climber. His slender physique and characteristic upright style is better suited to the mountains than to the flat roads. One of the three, Jacques Boulas, has punctured. Fortunately, the Jobbo team car is right behind the breakaway group. off again. It took 9 seconds, and it'll take some pedaling to reach the other two again. Meanwhile, the race has arrived at Saint-Quentin, but here something unexpected happens. A new obstacle. The cars can't get through and have to drive up over the pavements and through front yards. Chaos again. The bike race has turned into a steeplechase. It's another demonstration for the laid-off workers of Le Parisien Libéré. But both the breakaway trio and then the field are allowed to slip through. And after some delay, the accompanying cars. The bike race goes on. The trio's advantage has begun to diminish because now they're approaching l'Enfer du Nord. It isn't far to hell now, and the main field starts to accelerate. Through Le Cateau, only 4 miles before the first cobbles, and the field have gathered speed. Right behind the pack are 2 official cars. Then the 15 service cars, a few press cars, most of them have gone on ahead. The doctor's car, an ambulance, more press cars. The cavalcade ends with the broom wagon, so called because it sweeps up the riders who've retired from the race. Then the bike rack car to carry their bicycles. Neuilly, immediately before the rough stuff. The time is 10 minutes to 2. A single rider in the lead. It's Talbot, one of the 3 breakaways. And then there are the other 2, Martinez and Boulas. But there also is the field. It's important to be among the first in on the pavé, as the twisting cobbled roads cause an immediate spreading of the field. This is where hell begins. The first stretch of pavé is only 2 miles long, but terribly difficult. The surface is completely deformed, and here, past Neuilly, there's a steep hill as well. And who's the first man in? It's Talbot. He doesn't appear to have considered resigning yet. But then it happens. The front of the field catches up with him and streams past. It's Roger de Vlaminck, followed by Walter Planckaert. Vlaminck is now in the clear and forcing the pace. There's panic in the field and signs of disintegration. Vlaminck continues his tremendous push. Not that he intends to go it alone, but rather to provoke a state of alarm and split the field. Behind him and leading the pursuit is his sworn enemy, Freddie Martins. André Dirks is at his rear wheel, and they have de Vlaminck under control. But the wild dash for the lead has had a dramatic effect. It took just a couple of miles to split the field. The merciless weeding out process has begun. In the front group of about 20 men are Moser, Dirks, Planckaert and 2 or 3 Brooklyn riders behind de Vlaminck. But Merckx is here at the head of the second group, and behind him, Walter Godefroot. There's Talbot of the 3 breakaways, the one who held out the longest. And there, a little ahead of the new main field, is Raymond Poulidor, who year after year has placed himself as the best Frenchman in the race. At the rear, the weak and the more unfortunate are being left behind, while those who don't like cobblestones prefer riding along on the roadside. An accident here on the first stretch of pave can be disastrous. This is where the broom wagon has something to do when they start giving up. And one of the first to pack it in is our old acquaintance now, number 173, Jacques Boulas, who was in the breakaway trio. There he is, poor Boulas, completely done for, and the end of Paris Roubaix for him.
Je suis avec le premier, hein. 20 couleurs devant et du crépé, hein. Bon, 5 km à pavé. Maintenant, Merckx, il est seul, hein, dans notre équipe. Il est seul devant. Peut-être Liven, je crois. J'attendais presque 2 minutes pour la voiture. Hein. Beaucoup de coureurs et la voiture sont derrière après 2-3 minutes. Hein.
Et puis il est prêt, hein.
Il doit être en première loge maintenant.
Ça.
Et naviguons en plein brouillard, un brouillard artificiel provoqué par la poussière, soulevée par les coureurs et aussi par les voitures suiveuses. Car...
C'est pour eux, ça.
These old cobbled roads are hardly ever used except by farmers on their way to the fields, and now, on this calm Sunday in April, a bunch of crazy bike riders. In fine weather, the crossroads are a good picnic spot for the nearby villagers. People wait to get a glimpse of the great race that has made this region legendary. They wait for a few fleeting moments of action, drama, torture, and even heroism.
Les crevaisons se multiplient. Première victime importante de ces incidents, Raymond Poulidor. Raymond Poulidor est affecté.
The time is 2:20. Now the race appears to be regrouping. And there's not much distance between the two leading packs. In other words, Merckx's section has closed on de Vlaeminck's group. There are about 15 men in the first group. And Merckx, at the head of the second group, commands another 18. But Martens isn't in either group. He must have had problems. But there he is, hidden behind a motorcycle, a little ahead of the main field. Now Martens has to try to catch up, alone, with none of his team to help. A mile later, and the situation is fairly obvious. They're still pounding away in the leading groups. Several in that company don't want to make it easy for Martens to join on. Dirks is leading the way, in front of Verbeek. Once again, the Flemish riders are dictating the pace. Despite the tremendous pressure up front, Merckx's group, led here by Godefroot, is about to make contact. Only 7 seconds separate them, so a merging of nearly all the men that matter is imminent. How far now does the hapless Martens lag behind? He's got to slog away at it in order not to lose his chance. If the main group swallows him up, and they aren't far behind, he risks getting stuck with them. Martens is a very strong rider, particularly in time trials, but it's remarkable that none of his teammates up ahead have come back in order to help him. The gap is 40 seconds between Martens and the leaders. And there's 20 seconds between Martens and the main field, here being led optimistically by the Dane Ole Ritter. Ritter has always been well placed in Paris Roubaix, and it's obvious that he intends making his presence felt. There are other good riders in this group too, who will contribute to narrowing the deficit, hoping that sooner or later the speed up front will diminish. But most of them are doing their utmost just to keep up. The back end of the field is starting to fall apart, and one by one the stragglers have to call it quits. The weeding out mercilessly continues. Following the main field comes the line of vehicles. The officials in the red cars still won't let the service vehicles pass the field and drive up behind the leaders. The red Peugeots also direct the traffic. They're the command centre of the race, from which the other vehicles are kept notified about the positions of the riders by radio. And likewise, the service cars are called up singly when needed. A fall, number 163, Hervé Enordi of France. He won't be getting back on his bike today. The service cars keep an eye on the right side of the road. It's there, always on the right, that riders with mechanical problems await help. Such as here, for example. It has to be quick now, because so much is happening up ahead. And he'll have to do the best he can with that wheel. The radio reports that Martens has now received assistance from his teammate Michel Pellantier, who's dropped back for him, and that they're closing on the leaders, who are now bunched in a single group, after the exertions of Merckx and Godefroot. Now de Vlaminck has to be notified that Martens is approaching.
Così, 40 secondi Martens. Martens e Pellantier, 40 secondi.
Valenciennes, 20 minutes to 3.
un peu de toilette, car véritablement, nous n'y voyons plus rien du tout. Nos lunettes, nos vêtements, tout était complètement recouvert de...
It won't be long now. From the Café de la Place, everybody knows how things are developing. Martins has reached the lead group, and the pace has been reduced. But something happens just before Valenciennes. Two Brooklyn riders have broken away, the Belgian De Monk and the Italian Osler, who here speed over a level crossing. This breakaway is a tactical manoeuvre. Neither De Monk nor Osler are among the real contestants in this race. They've been sent by De Vlaeminck with the intention of forcing his rivals to greater activity. It's obvious that De Vlaeminck wants to dictate how the race is to be ridden this year. He's on the offensive, even with this ploy by his own support riders. The expected regrouping takes place behind the breakaway, on the outskirts of Valenciennes. Kuiper, Poulidor and Ritter have caught up. It was their last chance to be included in the finale, which begins after the feeding station in the town. Some of the very worst cobbles are waiting further north. The race is barely halfway into hell. The second feeding zone is right outside the Café de la Place. There's a lunch bag for everyone. And it's also where many of the riders dismount, the hopelessly outdistanced, the weary support men who may feel they've done their duty, some even that it was well performed. They know that here the team personnel are ready to take care of them, and that there's transport to Roubaix. Some of them gave up long before Valenciennes, but were lucky enough to get a lift from private motorists just out to see the bike race. The two Brooklyn attackers still have a slight advantage. It can't go on for long, because Merckx, as usual, has assumed the role all the others are eager to see him in, the lead position. Once in front, he heads the pursuit like a locomotive. It falls into place for De Vlaeminck. Merckx now has to ride after the breakaway, which De Vlaeminck has organised. Merckx is causing the group to string out. The new pack is about 40 strong, here where the paving stones of hell start again. Barely 2 hours of the race remain, and a more comprehensive sorting out is imminent. Soon the long column will be thinner. Another fall. The battle for a place is hard and dangerous on the sharp stones, where the speed is again fast and furious. And Poulidor is furious. He wants a wheel, and now. There's some very fast riding now. It's difficult just to keep position, to keep your rear wheel. Martens, De Meyer, Dirks, Godefroot, De Vlaming and Merckx leading. Merckx attempts to break the others with his tremendous power. The time is 20 minutes to 4. At the cycle track in Roubaix, the countdown continues. In the interim period, there is cycle racing. But track racing is only a substitute. The real thing is the road, and the crowd is awaiting its heroes. This old track's most distinguished function has been to provide the setting for the conclusion of one of the world's greatest road races. Roubaix is close to the Belgian border, and today the track is a mecca for thousands of them. A few things have been happening in hell. The two Brooklyn breakaways have been overtaken. Straight afterwards, a lone rider took off. It's Frenchman Sabille, who bravely takes his life in his hands. But he doesn't get very far. On the left, Martin's leading man, Marc De Meyer. On the right, Godefroot. Merckx has temporarily stopped his attempts to split the field. Everyone is happy to take a breather. More mishaps. A Brooklyn rider is among the unfortunates. And there lies Walter Planckaert. He might have been one of the strong men, but his luck ran out, as it does for so many. They're waiting for the doctor and for transport as the Brooklyn car rushes off to De Vlaming again. And up here, the battle is coming to the boil. Every other second, the rhythm is broken by somebody trying to break away. All the favourites are active now and have put themselves at the front of the field. De Vlaming, De Meyer, Godefroot, Martens, Guillaume. They keep a sharp eye on each other. Martens has taken the lead. But off to the right, De Vlaming suddenly attacks. Way out on the side of the road, he pedals away in a new attempt to get free. Moser is the first to react, and then Martens. And this time they know that it's do or die. De Vlaming once more in the process of splitting the field. Martens gives it all he's got to overtake his two rivals. Finally, he catches up with them. Right behind him is Godefroot and Ras, and so the situation levels off. But the field shrinks. About 25 men are still together, with around 22 miles still to go to Roubaix. One after another, they falter. Now there's a new fall. It's Martens. Freddie Martens has crashed. The young Belgian star has no hope now of success. The race is over for the man many considered the top favourite. And Martins sadly ends the race as a passenger in the doctor's car. Walter Godefroot has taken the lead, and now it's his turn to force the pace so that it hurts. Godefroot, the former winner of Paris Roubaix, seems in good form and is riding very well. With his smooth, powerful technique, he's a real expert in this terrain and is not nicknamed the Bulldog of Flanders for nothing. And suddenly it happens. 4 men have broken away: Godefroot, De Meyer, De Vlamingh and Kuiper. De Vlamingh looks back and proceeds to increase the speed even more. Notice De Meyer tucked into De Vlamingh's slipstream. He's riding for himself now. The crash by his captain Martins has released him from all obligations. The remainder of the field are a couple of 100 yards behind. 2 men have separated themselves and are midway between it and the breakaways. They're the 2 Frenchmen, Poulidor and Donguillaume, desperately trying to include themselves in this undoubtedly decisive escape. Still another rider approaches the 2 at high speed and passes them. They just can't keep up with him. It's Francesco Moser, with his distinctive style. His still aerodynamic position on the bicycle is an imposing sight of almost effortless rotary action. Moser continues to bridge the gap. And now Moser has made it, and there are 5 men in the leading group. But Godefroot has problems. He's punctured, a real disaster for him, and so another man's chance has gone. Now it's obvious that the decisive move has begun. And in the service cars, an appraisal of the situation is made. Who's still in the race and who isn't. The Italian Moser, the rival Belgians De Vlamingh and De Meyer, the Dutchman Kuiper in the world champion's rainbow jersey. These are the 4 who've gained for themselves a vital position. Merckx unaccountably wasn't there when it happened, but naturally, he's leading the pursuit. The Eurovision TV camera is positioned directly behind the 4 leading riders. The live transmission has begun, and we're into the final hour of hell.
On peut se perdre un petit peu, mais nous devons être du côté d'Antin, ou quelque part par là, du côté de...
The 4 breakaways. How great an advantage do they have? Ten seconds. 15. 20. 25. 30. 35. 40. 45. And here comes a single rider. It's the Frenchman Donguillaume, about 50 seconds behind the quartet. And here comes Merckx, Godefroot and the others, about 15 seconds after Donguillaume, and so more than a minute behind de Vlaeminck and the others. Some of the worst pavé lies close to Roubaix, and on these misshapen roads in these dust clouds, a lot can happen. The four negotiate a sharp corner and chaos again. There's Donguillaume, still 50 seconds behind. And the Merckx group, a good minute behind the leaders. Now there are only 12 men in Merckx's group. The rest are scattered in the dust. Moser and de Vlaeminck are doing all the work in the lead group. They're the ones making sure that the distance between them and their pursuers is constantly increasing. Neither de Meyer nor Kuiper take the lead. They're just hanging on, or are they being crafty and saving their strength? De Meyer glues himself to de Vlaeminck's rear wheel. He's been in that position since the start of the breakaway. He's still marking de Vlaeminck, and in so doing, furthers the war that Martens and de Vlaeminck are waging against each other. Kuiper is always at the rear. Is he tired, or is he waiting for a chance to get a jump on the others? That's his speciality, and that's how, a little unexpectedly, he became the world champion last year. The rest of the way is ordinary asphalt road. It's unlikely now that anybody in the rear group can catch up. On the final miles, de Vlaeminck again keeps the pressure on. His pacemaking is tough and exhausting. It looks as if he's trying to force an early showdown. By continuing his attacks, he's hoping to drain the power from his three companions. The Merckx group is about a minute and a half behind. Don Guillaume has been swallowed up by them, and now no one shows any desire to make a break for it. Dutch Tour de France star Zoetemelk is tired. Merckx seems resigned to his fate. Moser tries to make a break for it, but again de Vlaeminck parries the move in a flash. And Kuiper again, but de Vlaeminck sees it and is on his wheel at once. Eddy Merckx. The race is over for him. He hasn't been able to dominate this one. But suddenly he mounts an attack. Only a Merckx would attack at this late hour. The final kilometre. Which of the four is the best sprinter? Normally it's de Vlaeminck, no doubt about it, and then Moser. Merckx. But he doesn't succeed in breaking loose. The others are on his tail, and he doesn't force the issue. The time is 10 minutes past 5. A little relaxation before riding into the stadium. De Vlaeminck and Moser have probably expended the most in building up and consolidating the breakaways' lead. So, just how fresh are De Meyer and Kuiper? There are 1.5 laps to do on the track. De Vlaeminck maintains his command of the situation. De Vlaeminck makes the tactical error of riding a long sprint from the leading position. Moser attacks from above, but he doesn't box in De Meyer, who slots in between them and rides a really explosive finale. First, Mark De Meyer. Second, Moser. Third, De Vlaeminck. Fourth, Kuiper. Meanwhile, Merckx's group approaches the stadium. 4 riders have detached themselves. Jan Raas, Merckx, Godefroot and Don Guillaume. The surprise winner, Marc de Meyer, a tremendous triumph for this support rider who rode his own race when his star Martens dropped out. And victory is especially sweet, snatched as it was from the hands of Martin's arch-enemy, de Vlaeminck.
In Vlaanderen gedaan. Er zitten mensen die hadden patroon. Je maakt het een derde finale. Ik heb niemand gedaan. Als je goed en ik wil met die aussi in de finale. Nee, c'est pas mon faute. Je suis content de gagner. Che ancora una volta fra i due migliori ha tutto quello che non ha mai lavorato.
And from the television platform, over to the official podium and the photographers. Advertising interests form the economic basis for professional cycle racing, and for the organisers, Paris Roubaix is a business enterprise. And so the Banque Nationale de Paris, the race's principal sponsor, is naturally in the picture, and that's what the bank has paid for. Another ritual is the victor's obligatory refreshment, a bottle of mineral water, also in the contract. For the racer's producers, just another necessary detail, but a bit more hell if he doesn't like to drink it. Eddy Merckx, inscrutable as ever.
Sur la piste, c'est toujours bizarre.
Roger de Vlaeminck, disappointed and furious. Marc de Meyer, the happy winner.
En ja, Guillaume die kon me zeggen niet meer op kop rijden, dus ik steek mijn hand in de lucht. Dus Blanco die rijdt 100 kilometer niet op kop, dus dat is nog heel wat anders. Het gebeurt dat ik gewoon meer Als je dan wat volop mee op zijn en dan zijn er om reden die vullen kunnen zitten stoppen in lijn. We weten niet wat dat moet doen, hè.
And that was Paris Roubaix 1976. A great race with a surprise winner. A year with a very special character, Paris Roubaix 1976, and it will be remembered as a race of fluctuating fortunes in the dust of the Enfer du Nord. In a week or so, the same cast will be assembled, the same actors, the riders, the journalists, the officials. The rivalry will continue, but few will have forgotten that Sunday in hell.